welcome to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you the freshest updates from the technology sector in Asia. I'm your host, Katey Creel, and in this week's episode, I'm talking to Sophie Mack, one of our correspondents in Sydney, about Australia's world-first social media ban on under-16s. Welcome to the show, Sophie.
Hi, Katey. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
This is the first time you're on Tech Latest, isn't it, Sophie?
Yes, it is.
So, for listeners who might not remember, Australia last year implemented the first ban on children 16 and under using social media. Before we get into the first few weeks of how that ban is going, could you just tell us a bit how Australia got to this point? I mean, the government doesn't just wake up one morning and say, no more Instagram for kids, normally.
Yeah, well, this really started in way early in 2024 when the wife of the leader of South Australia State read this book called The Anxious Generation, which you might have heard of. It's a very popular book in the States. Yeah, and it's about how social media and smartphones are sort of affecting kids' mental health. And this sort of inspired the state leader to think of ways to help parents rein in their kids' social media usage at home, including some kind of legislation. And his pitch received a lot of support, particularly from parents who have lost their children to suicide after being exposed to the things they have seen and experienced online.
Oh.
Yeah, so we spoke to one parent who was part of this advocacy group called 36 Months, which was behind the push for the ban. And they were calling for delaying social media access from 13 to 16.
Oh.
Yeah, so his name is Rob, and his 15-year-old daughter, Liv, took her own life in 2023 after being exposed to online misinformation that exacerbated her eating disorder.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yes. What Rob told us is that she saw a lot of online misinformation, like how influencers talking about how people can only live with only 200 calories per day, which is impossible.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah. And other harmful advice on ways to achieve extreme weight loss in a short period of time and how to hide the evidence of weight loss when you're in the hospital during medical checkups.
Oh my gosh, that's dark.
Yeah, so it was like stories like Rob's that encouraged the Prime Minister to finally take some sort of action. And it went very quickly. By September, Albanese said he would introduce legislation that would set a minimum age requirement for social media, saying that he wants kids to be allowed to be kids, partaking in sports, taking up hobbies, as opposed to always just spending time on their phones. The law was passed with bipartisan support in Parliament in December 2024 and came into effect a year after. So that's where we are at now.
That's rather quick development from identifying the problem or, the problem being kind of put in the spotlight to legislation being passed and implemented. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I think they found out that it was quite electorally popular. So it's just full steam ahead from then.
So what exactly is banned? For example, can kids still watch YouTube or leave comments on like a news website?
So far, 10 social media platforms have been banned, and they're all very popular among children. So they include TikTok, like Snapchat, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. So the law requires these platforms to remove or deactivate under 16 accounts and to block any under 16s from opening any new accounts. And but this being said, those without accounts, they can still view publicly available social media content that doesn't require you logging into an account, like you said.
Right.
So any public pages on Facebook, like for restaurants and businesses and celebrities, or generally most videos on YouTube, really. So in those cases, they can view the content, but they won't be able to interact with it, such as by liking or commenting, basically.
That seems a kind of reasonable compromise. You're not saying, kids can't use the internet at all, but, keeping them sort of ring-fenced.
Yeah, but the government did say there could be more social media platforms that could be targeted down the line. Yes. So right now they're looking at kids' migratory patterns, and it's a term they use. Which is they will be looking into where the kids are moving to once their access to platforms they typically use are cut off, basically. So far they've set their sights on Lemonade, a sister app of TikTok, also owned by ByteDance, and another one called Yope, a photo sharing app. So these apps have experienced an increase in downloads in December. So Lemonade at one point was the most downloaded lifestyle app on the App Store in December.
Wow.
Yes, so these two apps, they've been put on notice by the government to self-assess their services. So they did say it's going to be very much a whack-a-mole situation from now on. So, but even being that said, the e-safety commissioner did say she wasn't particularly worried about teens moving to other apps because she thinks they'll be spreading to so many different places that they won't really be able to achieve that same critical mass that you saw on like Snapchat and TikTok.
That's an interesting argument. And I guess, too, just raising barriers kind of does make it just hard enough that, yes, if you were really dedicated to it, you could probably find a way around this ban, get a VPN or something.
Yes.
But the point is just make it kind of disincentivize kids to spend all their day online, get outside.
Make their lives harder.
But there are still some platforms that are pretty popular with kids that aren't on the ban, like WhatsApp, Roblox. Is there a thinking behind that?
So right now, WhatsApp is still allowed to have under 16 users because it falls under an exempted class, which is that it is a pure messaging app. And this category also includes apps like Facebook Messenger and Messenger Kids, even though Facebook itself is banned. And other exempted classes also include online gaming platforms like Roblox, education and health services, and professional networking services like LinkedIn. Though I have to say that, funny enough, the communications minister did say that if every child somehow ends up on LinkedIn after the ban was put in place, and if LinkedIn eventually becomes a site for, say, online bullying, and if the algorithms there are targeting children in a way that's harmful to their mental health, the government will start going after LinkedIn as well.
Kids are taking over LinkedIn. Run.
Yeah. So basically what the government is doing is to put every online platform under the sun on notice, just to make sure that they keep the services safe for children's use so that they won't be banned.
Right. So kind of the other side of the whack-a-mole strategy is make sure the moles themselves know that they're targeted.
Don't come out.
Yeah. So how did public support for this move evolve over time? I know you mentioned in the beginning that there was a lot of grassroots activism, but were there any hurdles to actually making the ban a reality?
So the ban has consistently seen widespread support from the start when the idea was sort of being pitched forward and until now. So in December 2024, YouGov did a survey and found that 77% of Australians supported the ban.
Amazingly high.
Yes, and as you would expect, a large majority of children, those under 16, those directly affected, they obviously do not support the ban as much. And an ABC poll last month showed that 70% of children did not think the ban was a good idea.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah. On the other side, social media companies also obviously didn't support the ban, and TikTok called it illogical, anti-competitive, short-sighted. Elon Musk also criticized it, saying it seems like a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. There's also some legitimate concern from digital rights experts who believe that this may push children into darker, sort of more unregulated space of the internet, that it could limit the political or creative expression. And they're particularly worried that marginalized youth, including the LGBTQ community, migrant refugee children, people living with disabilities, people living in, say, the rural regions, people who are already sort of disconnected, they might be hit the hardest because you're now essentially cutting them off from communicating with like-minded people, or
make it harder to find community somewhere else.
Yes, that they could only find, say, online. Or that you're taking away their freedom to express themselves anonymously online because sometimes they don't feel safe just expressing themselves in real life. Or you're taking away a platform to learn about themselves, learn about their identities when they're growing up. And yeah, speaking of hurdles, right now the government is facing two separate legal challenges. And one is a high court challenge initiated by two 15-year-olds. And they're arguing that the ban is violating the implied freedom of political communication. The other one is from Reddit, and they're arguing that the law is preventing children from engaging in community experiences, and that it is forcing intrusive and potentially insecure verification processes on not just children, but also on adults themselves.
Reddit's case is quite interesting, saying it's pushing potentially insecure verification processes on people. Is it technically feasible to block someone based on their age? Because how can you know? I can just say, oh, yes, I'm 52
Yeah, well, that's a great
when I'm
question.
16 or 15.
Yeah, so social media companies, they already have technology, algorithms, they have models that could very, say, accurately infer and estimate your age.
Mm.
So this is a technique that is already employed by social media companies. They could basically determine a user's age only using data and signals that they have already collected from users when the users are on their accounts using the services. So, as you said, how would I know that you're, say, 52? They would look at how long you've been using your account. If you've had your account for, say, 10 years, 20 years, um,
Oh,
if you are following very specific crypto news and updates, if you're
right.
using, yeah, if you've used a credit card before to access a premium feature on a service, that could probably sort of tell them that you are well over 16.
Actually thinking, I've been using the same email address for about
Yes,
20
exactly.
years, 25 years. So yeah,
Yeah, so
hopefully I'd
that
be
you're,
safe.
yeah. So they could tell you're definitely over 16. But like conversely, they could also tell if you're probably under 16 if say someone has posted on your page wishing you a happy 13th birthday just last year. That's pretty self-evident.
Yeah.
If you've joined a, say, youth church group on Facebook, if you're only logged in after school hours after 3 p.m.,
Right.
if you're watching, say, cartoons and toy reviews exclusively on YouTube, those are all sort of signs pointing towards the direction that you're perhaps under 16. So this is what the e-safety commissioner is also recommending social media platforms to do, to start with age inference, age estimation,
Mm.
using existing data so that users don't really need to supply additional information so that the privacy can be, I guess, less infringed upon.
That's smart.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so with this, most of the population in Australia wouldn't even have to go through the age check process because social media platforms internally have already determined using their own signals that they are over 16. So they can just log in as usual, even on the day the ban was sort of implemented. So for those whose ages now seem questionable, they would be asked to verify age to continue to access certain platforms. So we look at Snapchat, for example. They have already disclosed their age verification method. So users could verify age through connecting to their Australian bank account, through sending a selfie to a third party, or submitting a government ID card for
Mm.
review. And similarly, if you're over 16, but your account is mistakenly removed or flagged, you could also challenge the decision and verify age using the same method.
Okay. So might be a bit of a pain for some people, but overall, I
Yeah,
guess they're going for the least burden for the most amount of people.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, anything like this, when governments try and impose age verification on social media, has been a cause for privacy concerns. Because as you mentioned before, sometimes people want to be anonymous for safety reasons, or it's giving more data to the government than maybe they feel comfortable with, or data leaks.
Hmm.
So, what are the concerns with this ban in Australia specifically? And how has the government tried to kind of, I guess, assuage them?
So, yes, the government has already tried to sort of assuage people's privacy concerns. As you said, they have been very adamant telling social media platforms that they must not force people to use government ID to prove age online, and that they must offer reasonable alternatives. So that's where the selfies come in, the
Okay.
facial scans. Yeah. So, but at the same time, though, the government is also requiring social media platforms, and this is all public information, to monitor
Hmm.
signals consistently over time, like whether users are, say, altering their location settings or what kind of content users are looking at.
Ah,
So, all as a way,
not just a one-off.
yes, so it's all as a way to determine if people consistently meet the age requirement, not just once, but throughout a long period of time. So this has naturally caused quite a lot of concern as well. So the Australian Human Rights Commissioner wrote in December that this would likely normalize broad-based age checks and normalize surveillance as a whole as the price of entry for holding a social media account.
That is the dark side, isn't it? Safety does come at a cost.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's a lot of the technical kind of issues and hurdles. But in your reporting, you also talked to a lot of children and their parents about how do they view the ban. Did you feel any kind of anxiety or excitement? I mean, I know a lot of kids, maybe 70% weren't happy about it. But what was your feeling from talking to them one-on-one?
Yeah, in the days and weeks leading up to the ban, the constant refrain we keep on hearing is, particularly from teens, is that they feel very uncertain about what was going to happen, about like exactly which platforms will be banned. Mind you, that Twitch was only banned in late November, just several weeks before the ban was to be implemented.
Oh.
So yes, they're also uncertain about like whether their accounts will be simply frozen, deactivated, or completely removed.
Oh, that's a good question.
And if that's so, what can they do to preserve the photos and messages or any posts they have on their accounts? What to do? Yeah.
Smart kids.
Yes. And like what age verification methods will be used for each platform. So yeah, so there was quite a bit of anxiety about like just how to prepare for it really. And yeah, so we talk to kids and they think that they will feel much more isolated and less connected to their friends when the ban comes in. Some feel quite angry because they feel they haven't been consulted properly before the legislation was put in place.
Right.
They feel like they're going to be, say, digitally excluded from a big part of the world where they could express themselves freely. Though some kids do see the positive side of things, they feel like they could now improve their attention span. They could spend more time on their hobbies and interests.
And I guess if everyone is banned, it kind of takes care of the FOMO because you're not the only one missing out. Everyone's missing out.
That's a very good point. And yeah, that has been sort of mentioned by kids as well, saying, I don't feel, especially for kids who don't have social media, they feel like everyone is now basically just like them, so they're not missing out on anything.
Right.
So those are the kids who really support the ban. Yeah, yeah, that's a very interesting point. Yeah, so we've also talked to parents as well, and they are mostly feeling quite positive about the change, saying that they could see their kids hopefully become kids again. They would get out more. Children are now more protected from online predators, cyberbullying, just general nonstop screen exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is some kind of worry that, especially for kids who have been over reliant on social media, that this would be quite a tough transition period, the weeks ahead, the months ahead, that suddenly they can't have this kind of constant stimulation.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I wonder if it will be easier for kids who are much younger now and maybe not on social media at all, because they'll be growing up in a world where the ban's always been in place. They know they can't go on Facebook or Snapchat until they're 17. So
yeah, we've talked to 8-year-olds who somehow have social media. I know, yeah, they're using Roblox, they're using Messenger, they're using TikTok. So I guess it is appropriate to start as early as possible because to keep them like not conditioned to having constant stimulation, to not be so dependent on social media. So it will be easier for them as they grow up.
Trying to imagine what was I doing when I was 8? Like playing the dirt.
Exactly.
So it's been in effect for about a month now, this ban?
Yes, exactly a month actually.
No, right. So is it working out as the government envisioned, or there have been you mentioned a few whack-a-mole type scenarios, but overall, has the ban kind of rolled out pretty smoothly?
A month in, I would say it's still going through some teething problems, I'd say. Just before Christmas, we talked to a bunch of kids under 16, and they are supposed to be banned,
right?
But they weren't. Even though they were honest about their birth dates when they were signing up for an account. So
interesting.
They're very clearly 13, and they were honest about it. So they're listed as 13 on the sites, but they're still not banned. And there are also reports we've seen of kids being able to beat the sort of age verification of facial scans. So they are not even putting on makeup or adding on, say, AI filters, but they're showing the real
Fake beards.
faces. They're not doing that, but they're still being sort of determined as over 16s, and they can still continue accessing their accounts. So so there's still quite a lot of teething problems that the social media platforms have to sort out in order to not pay the fine. But the communications minister, the government has been clear from the outset and has been managing expectations, saying that they know the ban won't be perfect from day one, and that age assurance may take weeks to complete accurately.
Fair enough. It is a big, ambitious plan. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll definitely see more and more underage accounts get deactivated and removed in the weeks to come.
And we'll be definitely looking forward to your coverage of, all of the issues we talked about, the legal challenges, how children adapt to this. So thank you so much, Sophie. This has been a really great conversation.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for this week's episode. For more of Nikkei Asia's tech coverage, visit asia.nikkei.com. You can also subscribe to our weekly Tech Asia newsletter, which will be delivered to your inbox every Thursday. Thanks again for listening, and check back with us next week for more updates on the tech trends that matter.